2 of the What We Talk About When We Talk About Mind podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be interviewing Daniel Santos, who's currently a swimmer at St. Francis College in New York. He's originally from São Paulo, Brazil, and he speaks Portuguese, Spanish, as well as English. And today we're going to discuss what he talks about when he talks about mind. And for this episode, and all those moving forward, we're going to be doing something a little bit special. Whilst interviewing each guest, I shall be wearing one of these special hats that I had manufactured. You cannot find these hats in the stores nor on the internet. I had these custom hats made with a special word imprinted on the top of the cap. And in each interview, each unique hat is going to represent the word mind in a separate language. And in each subsequent episode introduction, I'll be introducing the hat as well as the word, and just a little bit of interesting information about that specific word and what culture it comes from. So in this case, we have the word nous or nous. It comes from Homeric Greek, and it lasted up through the classical period. And in some instances, it's actually still used today in the Greek language. And the word translates, like all others, translates as mind. But this is a very special word because it's extremely close to the way that contemporary English speakers use the word mind. So nous comes from the Greek word noen, which means to see. And this means that the word has a very close relationship with the modality of vision. For example, in Homeric epics such as the Iliad and the Odyssey, more so the Odyssey, you'll hear expressions such as Zeus holds Odysseus in his noose, which means that he keeps watch over him. And I'm very excited to wear this hat, as well as some of the others in the episodes that are going to be coming up in the next few weeks. Okay, so tell me, what is your native language?
My native language is Portuguese.
Okay, so Portuguese, and which just so a reader can understand, Portuguese is similar to Spanish, but it's different in some ways, correct?
Exactly. It's very similar, but some words you can get confused sometimes. So it's like for us Portuguese, it's very easy. And if someone talks in Spanish, we can understand something. But if someone speaks only Spanish, they cannot understand us.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
It's tricky, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that with I noticed that Russian people can understand my native language, which is Serbo-Croatian, but I can't fully understand everything a Russian person says. So it's kind of amazing how it works one way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you already mentioned that you're a swimmer in college, and you mentioned that you're from Brazil. But tell me, what are you studying at St. Francis?
So I go at St. Francis. I'm a swimmer over there, and I'm majoring in economics with a concentration in finance.
Oh, very cool.
Yes. It was very difficult for me in the beginning when I was a freshman because I didn't know in what field I was going to study, But as long as the time goes, I figure out that I really like economics and finance. So I want to go to this field.
Sure. And it doesn't, honestly, I don't think it gets talked about enough, but I'm assuming that you really had to start practicing to use a lot of English when you got to school here. Is that correct?
Exactly. When I first started, I went to Oklahoma Baptist University in 2019. I spent 1 year over there, and then I transferred to St. Francis in New York. My first 3 months in Oklahoma, I didn't speak a lot of English. So I was really struggling with everything, with the accent, the way that like the people talk over there. So
Yes.
it's really difficult for me. Yeah,
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of American native English speakers, they say college is hard, but for you, you had to basically learn the language and pick up everything that's a whole new level.
exactly.
So let's get into it. So in Portuguese, in Portuguese, how would you like? Where do you say that a person like does thinking? Like where does thinking happen in your body, if it happens in your body at all?
I mean, right now that I have three languages because I speak Spanish too.
Hmm.
Um, my for me is like was a unique um, situation because my first language it was English because my dad speaks four languages:
Hmm.
uh, English, Portuguese, Spanish, and French.
Hmm.
So my first language was English first, and then um, at the school I was living in Brazil still. So I was going to school, but I didn't speak Portuguese at all. So the teachers over there they started complaining about like the situation. So like I have some homework and the teacher was like, can you do this and that in Portuguese? And I didn't understand like anything. So if then the teacher says like, um, do this, do that in English, then I will do it because it was my first language. And then I stopped. Then like the professor started complaining about my dad, my family, and my dad stopped the English and then introduced me in the Portuguese. And then like after some years, I got back to English.
You know, well, we probably won't include this part in the final, but because these are very personal things, but
Oh,
this issue of picking which language to speak. Actually, you know, it's actually a very important topic. It's worth talking about. This issue of how language develops when you're a child is extremely important. And I moved to the U.S. When I was about 6, 7 years old, and my native language was Serbo-Croatian. But what happened to me was when I was 7 or 8, I started stuttering. So I would go duh, 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 duh. And everyone in class, they thought I had a developmental problem. So my parents had to pick one language, you know, for me to pretty much speak that would dominate, because it's a big deal when you're a child and you're exposed to many languages.
yes.
But if you could say like what is the uh, would you say in Portuguese, or the way you used the way you talk about thinking, would you say that thinking happens in your head, in your heart? Do you think the brain has anything to do with it? Like how would you say, go ahead.
Sorry. I would say in the beginning when I was in Oklahoma in 2019, at first I was thinking in Portuguese and then translating and saying in English. So like in my head, I was like saying like how this sentence will be in Portuguese first, and then I would like translate everything and saying in English. But right now, after like 2 years, I mean, uh, I would say like I was talk most like in English first because like it's automatic for me. I would say.
You just said that thinking go you would think about things in your head. So you believe that thinking happens in your head.
In my head, exactly. Yes.
So but not your heart. Thinking has Do you believe that thinking has anything to do with your heart?
That's a really good question. I never thought about that.
Because have you ever heard of a phrase that goes, you have to know it by heart, or I know in my heart? It's kind of strange because it relates to people using the word heart when they're talking about things related to thinking. Do you ever find yourself using the word heart related to thinking?
No, never thought about that before.
Okay, all right. And so, what are the in Portuguese? What are the words for what would be the words for mind?
For mine, we can say like inteligente, or we can say cabeça, we can say cérebro. It's like
What's that?
different ways to say, like, we have a couple ways to say it.
Okay. And what would be, can you think of any expressions that would indicate that somebody's confused? So for example, in English, we might say, I'm lost in thought, or that hasn't crossed my mind. Do you have any expressions in Portuguese and literal translation?
So like, we can say this too, like, we're really lost in mind. Me perdi no meus pensamentos, but literally means I'm lost in my thoughts. I'm lost in my feelings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to you, what is the difference between thoughts and feelings?
Mm, For us, feelings it's more like a sentimental situation. So if you have some affect or you attract someone, it's more to feeling, and thoughts. It's more like a rational thing. So if you thinking about something, you're doing your homework, your math test, it's more like a thought, more like a thinking.
Okay, so it has to do, the difference is the rationality and logic has to do with thoughts. And would you say that desires and sentiments have to do with feelings?
Yes, I would say that for us.
And so what are some expressions you might use to say that somebody has gone crazy? So for example, in English, we might say somebody's lost their mind or somebody's out of their mind. What would you say in Portuguese if somebody's behaving kind of foolishly?
Well, it's very similar to Spanish. You can say like "você está loco," like you're going crazy, because go ahead, go ahead.
So just you're going crazy.
Yes, because when like it depends of the conversation. So if you're trying to explaining something to someone and then this person's like getting lost of their mind, like it's out of context, you can say like you're going crazy. So like this is related to the conversation. So like someone knows that this specific expression is going um, to this like conversation.
That's great. Okay, awesome. And how would you describe somebody that's maybe very intelligent? Would you say in Portuguese that somebody's bright? Like how would you communicate or compliment somebody's intelligent?
Very intelligent. We say we have like some how can I say that? Not goofy, but it's like some feelings, like some sentimental too. We can say like PhD. We can say like, hey doctor, hey like um, hey professor, hey someone. But if you want to compliment someone, you can say você é muito inteligente. It means you're very clever. Um, and like I think that basically it.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you uh, do you ever find yourself using your sense of vision to describe somebody? So, for example, or to describe situations. So, for example, uh, if you're trying to explain something to somebody, would you ever say something like, "Do you see what I'm saying?" Because you have the verb to see, which indicates, which uses the vision to communicate. Like to see also means to understand. Do
Yeah.
you guys use the vision modality in that way too?
Yes, we use that a lot because we use a lot of slang too.
Mm-hmm.
People from like my city over there, São Paulo, we use a lot of slang. So when we're talking or something, we can say "tá ligado." "Tá ligado" means in literally means you're like the lamp. It turning on. It's turn on. Like turn on the lamp. It's like literally means like turn on something. But it means like, do you know what you feel what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm trying to explain to you? It literally means that.
That's great. And that's, that's very interesting because
it's whole another contest, but when you put this expression in the conversation, it means like if you do you understand what I'm saying? For that.
It's interesting because when in the last podcast episode with Ognian, we were talking about. I asked him a similar question, and he told me that there was another expression in our native language about something to do with a light, like a switch next to somebody's head, and like clicking on, and it meant it was used in a similar context as what you just described.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's kind of. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. And are there any cases when you would use the stomach to describe anything that has to do with decision making? So, for example, in English, sometimes we might say an expression like, "What does your gut tell you?" or "You should follow your gut." Do you guys have any similar expressions like that? Portuguese?
Yes, we have the same. We have the same expression though. The same expression. It means follow your leads. So we say siga seus instintos. That means follow your instincts.
Okay, so what would be from your understanding, what would be the difference between an instinct versus like a rational, logical thing?
We don't use like follow your like guts because like for us like it makes no sense like follow your stomach like I mean but we say like instincts because it most directed to your head. So if your head is saying like you have a goal and this like along the way you don't know the plan to do it, you don't know what's your next step, so you have to follow your instincts. So we say siga seus instintos, so you can like figure out something in a way.
So it's more about, so are you saying it doesn't have to do with the stomach, or it does?
No, yeah.
No or yes?
No, it doesn't have it's okay. Not related.
Okay. So it doesn't actually mention the word stomach, but it's a similar meaning. It's a similar meaning. Follow your instincts, or kind of, I guess another word might be intuition.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So so the stomach's out then. And what about sometimes when a person lacks courage in English, we might say that they don't have a spine. A spine is that, the bone that holds you up. We might say in English, oh, the person is spineless, or they have a weak spine. How in Portuguese would you talk about somebody that doesn't have courage?
Doesn't have courage. We don't say you don't have a spine. We say that means like você não tem a coluna vertebral. So when someone is not courage enough to do something, we use like kind of rude expression that means você não tem coragem de fazer isso, ou você não tem a bola de fazer isso. Like it means you don't have the balls to do it, and the other one you don't have you don't have courage to do it, but like in a rude way.
Yeah. So
doesn't translate at all.
Oh no, it does translate. I believe it translates very well. Actually, I released a very long paper talking about where, in the body anatomically we put things. And in one footnote, I actually wrote specifically for, and actually I talked about it with Ognian too, but when men speak with each other privately, they tend to localize, or they tend to reference courage being like in the testicles. So you might say a person doesn't have balls, or if a person doesn't have courage in English, we might say you should grow a pair. Mm-hmm. That's that definitely makes sense to me. It is rude. It isn't something that you would use, casually at, but it is, you know, it is a little humorous and it's funny with your friends. Okay, so otherwise, other than thinking happening, in your head, are there any maybe expressions that are used when somebody has a good idea, or are there any expressions you use when you get a new idea? So, for example, Ognian said that an idea would pop into his head, and this was a way of describing things. So how would you say in Portuguese when you get a brand new idea that's very novel?
You can say a couple ways, like você é bom mesmo, like you're very good at this. But for us, we know what we're saying because it's related to the conversation. So every expressions we talk about, it depends on the conversation. So if you create some good idea, you can say like you're the boss, like você é o chefe. If you can, if you create a new idea too, like a really good idea, you can say você é muito inteligente, like you're very clever for this idea. We don't use like English. We don't use like that literally means like you're very clever. We use some like reduced expressions, like you're good at it.
That's really interesting, because pretty much with all of the expressions we've talked about now, you always made it very clear that the context in which it's used is very important. And this is interesting, especially to me, because in English you can kind of use these expressions everywhere, and the context doesn't matter so much, but it seems a bit different for Portuguese. So that's very cool. I'd never even considered that. And what about when, and what about if you're trying to express confusion, or you're trying to express that you don't know what's happening? Is there a specific expression you might use for that?
When you're confused or when you don't know what to do, we use like I don't know what to do, like literally, like okay, o que eu faço agora? What do I do right now? Or estou perdido, I am lost. Like we have like a couple expressions for that. Well, like at first right now it's hard to remember.
So that's one expression. You said it at the that's a new one at the end. You said it's just hard to remember.
It's hard to remember because we say it like in the situation, like automatic, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. And this is a point I'm trying to raise with my colleagues, but a lot of times when we use these expressions, we use these very rational expressions. We're not really thinking when we use them. We just use them very naturally, kind of like a reflex.
Right.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's the case in Portuguese as well. Now,
yeah.
Just those are all really fantastic answers. I'm wondering, would you be able to just discuss with me a little bit about what do you think are some of the biggest differences you see between Portuguese and English? Anything related to, ideally, anything related to like thinking or mental language, or the way things are described. But it's an open question. So any major differences in general?
Oh, for me, some like Portuguese and English. A fun fact is some words in English it's similar to Portuguese too. Like intelligent, we say inteligente. Let me see other one. Yeah, I mean like for now I can only think about this one because, as I said, it's hard to like came with something. Oh yeah, facts. We say like this is facts. We say fatos too. We say banana. We say banana too. Yeah, so like some expressions, not all of them, but like some expressions similar to Portuguese. But yeah, I can say that.
And what about in terms of word order? So in English, you say I walk the dog, and the verb always has to be kind of in the middle. But what about in Spanish? Is the I'm sorry, in Portuguese is the word order different?
Yes, it's different because here you say um, he's going to pick up something. We say opposite. We say he picked up something in this location. It's like the order of the sentence is different, and this was very hard for me to get it to.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to that. In my native language, you use the verb very quickly. You use the verb almost up front. But when I studied classical Latin, it was the most painful things. They would put the verb all the way at the end of the sentence. So it would the sentences would sometimes be like, to the store where all of the good groceries are and everywhere else is what I like is what I'm going to pick up. So having the verb at the end is sometimes very difficult to translate because you don't know which sentence it belongs to.
Yes, that's insane.
Great. And so are there any other languages you're interested in studying?
I want to learn French too
Mm-hmm.
because I want to follow my father's path. But yeah, but for now, like I'm really focusing only in English and Spanish, and like in the future, I will, I think, like try and learn some
And for
Spanish.
for a finance background, the Spanish will take you really far because it has a lot of the Spanish and Portuguese will take you very far because it has a lot of coverage and
Mm,
to do business in a lot of places.
exactly.
And just I guess one last bit I want to ask here is, so what are your next what are your plans to do next once you finish school?
Well, it's a really hard question for an international student, but with the COVID, with the pandemic, I think we're lucky, like in these terms. We have like one good thing that happened for the all the athletics, all this like the NCAA swimmer athletics in general. So we got one more year of eligibility. So I was planning to do my master's in finance too, but before the COVID, I wouldn't have this one more year, and so I was just gonna finish college here and go back to Brazil though. But with this one more year, I'll be able to start my masters and talk to my coach so like I can get one more year to finish the masters and start like start my like research or start my business or start my new employment.
That's fantastic, and it sounds like you've turned a difficult situation with COVID and being an international student into an
Yeah.
opportunity. And there are more schools now that are offering this path to get a master's immediately right after. And this is very important because getting that master's degree it gives you a huge advantage, and it's not something that everyone else has. It's not something that everyone else has done. So I think that's a pretty good plan. It's a very creative, unique way of taking advantage of your additional year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I
Awesome.
know it's really bad that what happened like with the COVID and everything, but it benefit us, all the athletes, like so like the seniors who's gonna graduate when COVID happens, they didn't graduate like at all. They just like have some Zoom meeting and then receive like the um certificate.
Yeah, the
And
diploma.
this, this was not fair like for all of them. So like they extended like one more year for like all the students. So like this was like really good for me and like for the other ones too.
Well, good. Good. I'm glad that it worked out for you. And I'm really glad you took some time to speak with me about this. I've never actually interacted and got to talk about this with anyone that spoke Portuguese, so is very interesting and novel.